Welcome to Red and Yellow, the podcast about all things to do with refereeing at grassroots level, looking at the laws of football, speaking to guests, and trying to help you become a better referee, with Adam Humphreys and me, Ed Connell.
Hello, it's Adam here, and welcome to this episode of Red or Yellow. I just wanted to jump on here before the episode started and remind you to send us your questions about anything refereeing, and that way we can hopefully help you improve your game, as well as help all of the listeners improve their games as well. The best place to send us your question is via our loyal listener WhatsApp community, which you can join by clicking the link in the show notes, or send us an email or find us on social media. It's at Red or Yellow Pod. Added to that, please subscribe to the podcast, and that way our meandering chats about refereeing will magically appear on your phone whenever we release a new episode. And lastly, all views expressed on this podcast are that of myself, Adam Humphreys, and not that of Football Queensland. Now that's all done, let's get on with the show. Well, hello, Edward.
Happy King's Day, Adam.
Yes, it's the King's birthday.
Is that that's a holiday, obviously, in Australia, is it?
Yeah, I think any excuse for a holiday in Australia. People are always amazed when we talk about Australia compared to England and like productivity and stuff, because obviously there's only like 22 million people who live here and things, and the economy and that. And definitely, without a doubt, I'm sure one of the reasons that they're not one of the great economic powers of the world is because they seem to have an excuse for any holiday, and the King's birthday is definitely one. Especially when most of them don't like the King and they want to turn it into a republic anyway. It's a bit ironic. It's like
It's a bit ironic, really.
you go to them, do you know that means you're going to lose a bank holiday? And they're like, what? No.
Yeah, exactly. Talk to them in terms they understand.
Exactly.
Well, it's Sunday evening here, and I'm just readying myself for another fun week of work.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah.
Has it been busy?
It's been very busy. Yeah, busy times, but there we go. Such is life. But
such is life.
The weekend has gone far too quickly, and had a frustrating game watching Chelsea this afternoon at Stamford Bridge.
Okay.
Where we drew 1-1. But annoyingly, Forest were down to 10 men for about 25 minutes. So should have done better, but there we go. It's not a defeat.
Forest as well. It's not like they're a titan of the Premier League, is it?
No, but they're a kind of Nuno now. They're pretty handy. They haven't lost this season, I don't think, have they? Or
Really?
they lost one game or something. Yeah, no, they're doing all right. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Doing pretty well.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, I was talking to some colleagues the other day about the podcast and stuff, and they were asking about you, and we was chatting because they heard you drop in your brother's ex responsibilities with the military FA or whatever it was. What was it?
Naval FA, yeah.
That's it. And they were talking to me about that. And then they asked the question, well, how did you two meet? Like, how do you know each other? Because I don't think they can quite understand that your stratospheric, like, what's the word, upper class family happens to coincide with a working class boy from Essex. So and I was thinking about it, and I'm like, I don't really completely and utterly know the story. Obviously, I know how we met, because we met on Twitter, didn't we? But I thought also
we did meet on Twitter. Yeah,
I went to see Joker Folie de yesterday, and I was thinking, the origin story might be nice. It might be nice for people to know how we know each other, because I think a lot of people think we just knew each other through refereeing, which isn't actually true in the slightest.
It's not true at all. I don't think our paths would ever have crossed had it not been for Twitter.
I know, but I never use Twitter, right? Like, it's so crazy that I found a really good friend on a platform that I've probably posted to maybe 100 times in my life.
I think that so the story, the sort of shortened version is I was kind of looking for a personal trainer,
right?
And you came up on my feed, and so I sort of clicked on your profile, whatever, and what interested me more than the fact you were a personal trainer was the fact that you were an actor, which I was quite excited by, because when I was growing up, that was the job I most wanted to do or pursue as a career. And so I thought, that sounds fun. Somebody's a personal trainer who's, done acting before. And I think just reached out to you on Twitter. And you at the time were working, I think, in like Canary Wharf way. And so you were coming in and doing personal training at the same chain of gyms that I go to in East London.
Mm-hmm.
and you enthusiastically said that you would come to West London if I wanted to have some personal training sessions.
I would.
And so there we go. That's how it all started.
Yeah,
Very
excellent.
random.
It was, isn't it? I remember very regularly jumping on the train and traveling over to West London to train you and chill out. And we used to make it like it was more than like an hour session. Was that we used to go for a swim after there and actually have a
Yeah,
nice
swim
day.
or
It was nice. Um,
yeah,
and then you used to beat me at tennis if you ever came
yeah.
my way and stuff. It was good. They were good old days. That's
They were
I
good old
knew I
days.
knew it was on Twitter, but I didn't know whether it was because you found me as an actor or whether you found me as a personal trainer first. I
No,
couldn't quite
no, it
figure it
was
out.
definitely personal training, but then seeing your profile that you're an actor, and I thought,
Mm.
oh, that's quite interesting. Um,
And then the refereeing was just a coincidence, wasn't it?
yeah, the refereeing was just a total coincidence. So we,
Mm.
we used to obviously talk about what we were doing at the weekends when we did the PT sessions, and you were refereeing out in Essex, and I was doing a bit of refereeing out in, sort of southwest London area.
Mm.
Yeah, there we go.
There we
There's
go.
the
The
backstory.
rest is history.
Not
The
sure there's enough
origin
in there
story. It's not
to
a backstory, it's origin story these days.
not sure there's enough in there to make a sort of film, but I could try and think who we could have to play you, Adam, if you we
Oh,
were making this
Kevin
film out.
Bacon. Kevin Bacon, if he was 30 years younger. A lot of people say I look like Kevin Bacon.
Did they?
Yeah. Funnily enough, actually, the other day talking about lookalikes, um, funnily enough, we was in a restaurant the other day and there was a guy in there who looked like you, but he had brown hair, not what do you call your hair?
Not
Because I
blonde.
call it ginger.
Not
It's
blonde
not
hair
blonde,
like mine.
not blonde.
How nice you met somebody with like me, but without blonde hair. That's nice.
Yeah, no. So Leah saw him and she was like, "That looks like Ed." I'm like, "It
Who
really
is that
does."
dashing young man
No,
over there?
the word dashing definitely didn't feature.
Oh, I need to have words with your wife then. Crikey. Blimmin'
And so transitioning from that, what happened to the acting career?
Well, it became a legal career. That's what happened to it. Common sense prevailed.
I
No,
wish I'd have made that choice, I tell you.
I mean, I saw that about 0.2% of actors actually make a living from acting, and I thought,
Is it that low? Fuck.
I'll try my chances of being a barrister, and those were pretty slim, but they weren't as slim as becoming an actor. So, yeah, so that's what happened. The legal career took off,
Hence you live in West London and I live in a regional outpost of Australia.
exactly. And yeah, no, I've dabbled with the acting over the years just to sort of keep my hand in.
Yeah. In what ways?
Oh yeah, just getting to classes,
Oh
when the
yeah.
opportunities to present themselves.
Oh,
Yeah,
perfect.
so
Good.
yeah,
Good stuff.
it's good.
Yeah.
Anyway, right. Should we talk about news? Have you got any news, Adam? Because I've got a couple of news items I want to talk about.
Okay, well, you're always more in touch with the world than I am in terms of this. So no, not really. I have the only
Well,
bits.
you're still getting like, the newspapers from 3 weeks ago, aren't you? Back out there in the burbs.
Yeah, wait. I'm just waiting for the pigeons to fly by.
Yeah, see, well, I'm living in the sort of the big metropolis, and no, it's all happening here.
Yeah, Skip has not brought the post out this morning. God, how racist is that? Right.
And for everyone thinks that we're either as a drunk and thinking we're almost 10 minutes in and we haven't spoken about football yet. It's 6 a.m. in Australia and it's Sunday night here, and there's no alcohol anywhere in view.
There isn't. Yeah, and hopefully we won't get cancelled after that little interlude. What was I going to say?
Somebody's still listening now. We're 11 minutes in.
Yeah, exactly. In terms of news, no. What I have. Sorry, I was just picking up a bit of plastic that my dog's trying to chew. No, the only sort of news I have is that really, like, the social media is going gung ho, which is awesome. Posts are being posted.
In terms of our podcast, yeah. Sorry, I thought you were talking about some other story that I'd missed, but yeah, no, that's really good.
Yeah. Which is lovely. Posts are
videos
going
are
up
getting
and we're
lots of
getting followers and views, which is great, which is nice. So thank you for that. If you are following us on the soch, it's at Red or Yellow Pod. And the only other bit of news is our website now. When you Google, I discovered the other day, when you Google like refereeing podcast or best refereeing podcast and stuff like that, we're coming up on some search engines, top of the list, which is exciting.
It's exciting. And the website's growing. It's got a bit info about ours and the sort of considerations that we started dealing with last week, and videos from the podcast. So yeah, it's worth a little look. If you want to find it, just look for or search for Red or Yellow Referee Podcast.
And now we can put on our origin story.
So I've only got 2 bits of news.
Okay.
It's not been a particularly big sort of fortnight in terms of refereeing. I suppose the biggest news is, and here we go. It's a VAR story. I'm afraid again. My
surprise.
Favorite topic, but I think it was last weekend or the weekend before that. Bruno Fernandes, playing for Man United, got a straight red card. Playing against Spurs, and so to try and describe what happened, he comes sort of in to make a challenge. He plainly slips. His kind of boots go up in the air, but he's not near the player because obviously he slid in the wrong direction. And then he kind of puts his foot up towards the player who's kind of now running past him. And the referee gave a straight red. And what's happened now is that the FA appeal have allowed the appeal. So the red card's been dismissed. And the article that I read in The Athletic today, I think really epitomizes for me my problem with VAR, is that the referee decision on field was to give a red card. The VAR people didn't feel that there was any reason to interfere with that. And then the panel of players dealing with the disciplinary, and they are ex-professional players, were all of the view it plainly wasn't a red card, so rescinded it. So it just demonstrates this problem about, we all hoped that when VAR came in, would be dealing with definitives. What was got wrong before would be now correct. Offside decisions wrong in the past would be correct. Balls out of play now be correct. But this just demonstrates for me the real problem. That's 3 different people having 3 different perspectives on the exact same thing. There is no definitive right or wrong answer. It's people's interpretations of it. And that's why VAR, I'm afraid to say, just shouldn't be being used for things like that, as far as I'm concerned. I know I've bleated on about it before, but if it's a decision where 3 different sets of people have got 3 different views, what's VAR doing? It's just a complete waste of time.
Yeah, I suppose the counter argument to it would be that you're looking at it in terms of like VAR is dealing with the on-field issues, right? So like VAR's job is to, at all times, is to almost back up the referee.
By the way, are you being slightly distracted by the dogs
I've got
running riot?
Yeah, bless them.
I tell you what, they're bloody distracting me.
Ouch.
It's bloody. I think people started to think that they could hear you wheezing, Adam, because all you could hear was like some noise in the background.
It's the postman. The Skippy's arrived.
Yeah.
1 sec. Let me get
tell Skippy to drop the post off and bugger off.
Good.
Good Lord. Oh, dear me, honestly.
Right.
Never work with children or animals.
Put my headphones back on.
So you're saying about the thing with your on-field decision.
And so like obviously last season it felt like VAR was refereeing by proxy, and I think they've obviously tried to move away from that slightly this season, probably. And so there, you don't want to undermine the authority of the referee there. But I think you're right. Like, I suppose it comes down to, I think now we're at a point where we just need to reshape our understanding of the authority of a referee. And because there's so many grey areas in the laws of the game, potentially maybe it's not like the referee is the ultimate arbiter. There's like other processes that a decision can go through if it meets a certain criteria. A bit like, I don't know, a bit like a bill in the Houses of Commons, like has to go through like a select committee, then has to go to this phase and this phase and this phase. And at any point of those phases, it gets reviewed, decided before it finally gets voted on. And I imagine it's probably just a bit more like that now. Like we're just gone are the days where the referee, it's in the professional game, I should say, for grassroots, obviously there's still is only one authority. I think we're just gonna have to accept that this is the way football is now.
But on this particular decision, I think when they looked at the VAR, when you look at the VAR, it's quite obvious that the contact that Fernandes has with the player is not very much at all. And it's also clear that it's not his studs that make contact with the player.
Mm.
It's his foot, right? So
Mm.
if anything, it's a yellow card for the sort of reckless play or deliberate foul. That is clear. But what I don't understand is why, when the VAR referees are looking at it and they get the opportunity to look at, a few times if they want to, I don't know, they're being encouraged to speed these things
Because
up. But at least ask him to go and look at it and review it on the screen.
yeah,
You
because
know,
I think but they're also trying to speed the game up, aren't they? And they're probably trying to avoid that. And I think there is an argument, like in the moment, watching it, there you can see why a red card is the conclusion. Right. Like you can see why the referee gives a red card for that decision. I understand why it's not, like especially after last week and us going through all the considerations, but I can also
yeah.
understand why it is. I mean, the bit that disappointed me the most is it looked to me like the referee didn't have a clear view of it when I saw
Yeah,
it.
that's the
He's got a
I
few
agree.
players running in front of him, and I think he's given a 15% decision there based on like he's got 85% of the picture, but the crucial bit of the picture he's not got, and he's kind of gone on the balance of everything else, which is understandable. Sometimes you do that. Sometimes you have to look at it and go, on balance, I reckon this is probably the decision here. And most of the time you get that right. Um, in this
But
instance,
he
he obviously
but
didn't.
he's got VAR there, so presumably he can
VAR should have
say,
given him the other 15%. Yeah,
yeah,
I get that.
that coming up, you might want to change your mind. He does come in studs up, but there's no contact there at
Mm.
all. And when he puts his foot out, it's not his studs that make contact. I mean,
I mean, yeah,
yeah,
you're right. I mean, VAR generally, my understanding, my experience of it, and I haven't watched a huge amount of football with it, is generally they're there to almost give red cards as opposed to not, right? So they almost work in the opposite way to this decision, in the sense
but they
that
shouldn't do because it's
no,
the
no,
same
I know they
process.
shouldn't, but they generally do, right? Like generally, you've missed something, go and review it. It should be a red card. Like let's take I always want to call her Lily James, but that's not a name, is it? Lauren, is it Lauren James in the World Cup?
Yeah,
Um, like ref gave a yellow. They then reviewed it and was like, you need to upgrade that to a red. Okay, fine. But seldom do they come in and go, that red card, you need to review it and rescind it. They don't undermine the referee in that sense. And I think the reason they don't undermine the referee in that sense is because if they were to, that would cause more issues for the on-field referee with the players
I agree with
than
that.
it would than it does the other way around.
But remove VAR from those sorts of decisions then when it's all about perspective and your interpretation of positions and
But that's every
interpretation
decision,
of
isn't it?
rules.
But that's every decision. Every decision
Yeah,
is
but
down to
but this
perspective
this is
and
not a part. This is
interpretation.
not one that's this is not a sort of, is it offside or not? Is it over the line or
Yeah,
not?
but when
This
it comes
is,
to
do you
discipline,
think it looked like it was reckless? Do you think it was, dangerous? And
mm,
it's just that's going to differ from person to
mm,
person.
mm,
And so I just say, if didn't have it involved in that, we wouldn't have this ridiculous position where we've got referee's decision, VAR have not intervened, and three ex-players have all said it's obviously not a red card,
mm,
rescinded it, and it doesn't
mm,
do the game any good or the refereeing world any good when
mm.
that sort of things happen. What was interesting is that, I mean, we were promised that after the international break, which is this coming week, that the semi-automatic offside should hopefully come into force because all the sort of various new cameras have been installed. I haven't heard anything about that recently, but at the start of the season, the Premier League released stats saying that 76% of fans were supportive of VAR. Um, and you might sort of say, well, you would expect that, wouldn't you? Because the Premier League are invested in it now. But the Football Supporters Federation has sort of cast doubt on that because they did their own poll of fans, and I think it was 66% of fans didn't want VAR.
Right.
So someone's not quite telling the truth there when it comes to the stats, it would have
It's
seemed.
not
But
an overwhelming majority though, is it? Like I know it is the majority, but it's not. It's still, there's still if it's dropped to like 2/3, like chances are people are going to get used to it eventually.
I would happily see it go tomorrow. Right?
Really? I
Really,
I don't.
yeah.
I think that's the first time you've ever said that.
No, I would happily see it go tomorrow because for me, it's the disadvantages just outweigh the advantages.
Mm,
I just don't see the benefit anymore. And the sort of the whole, do we celebrate a goal or not? Oh, we celebrate a goal, but we've now got to wait 4 minutes for somebody to tell us whether it was offside or not because they're drawing crosshairs. It's just
Mm,
painful. Okay, so let's just go back to where it was. There might be
mm.
occasionally some goals that are allowed that aren't. There might be some good opportunities that are stopped because someone's getting a wrong offside. I can live with all of that. I can live with the occasional person escaping a red card, and I can live with somebody occasionally getting a red card when it wasn't a red card. I honestly, I don't see the benefits anymore unless you can do something, definitive, like the semi-automatic offside, like the ball over the goal line. Otherwise, yeah, I've had enough of it.
I wonder, yeah, I know. I wonder how much of it is generational. Like in 5, 10 years' time, like my godson, for instance, I bet like he's not going to know a different era, is he? And eventually, it's just going to be a part of the game. I think for those of us who grew up kind of like in the heyday of the Premier League, when like in those early 2000s, and football was just nuts, and it was all going gangbusters, and it was growing, like the business of it was growing, the money of it was growing, and just the coverage of it was growing and everything. And it was really in that kind of heyday for us. Like I think we're always going to have our doubts about it, but as a new generation comes in, as the younger generation comes in, they're just gonna that's just the way they experience football, and they're
Yeah,
just going to get used to experiencing two different versions of football, what they play themselves and what they watch on the telly.
yeah, it doesn't even bring the drama. I know some people sort of say, "Oh, they like the drama of it all." I think that's the worst part of it, if I'm honest. It
In
sort of
terms of
sucked
like
the
goals,
life out of it.
in terms of like goals being scored or not being scored because of things and stuff, I mean, it doesn't affect you too much, does it? Because you're a Chelsea fan.
But it's just like, oh, they scored. And so I was watching a phase of play today where I saw, in the build up, someone hit someone's arm, right? But the
Mm,
referee didn't see it.
mm,
And I was thinking, I know what's going to happen here. We're going to score and they're going to track back 30 seconds
yeah.
and they're going to see in this handball that he made. I mean, I'm not, who's really interested in that? No
Yeah.
one.
No, I
Absolutely
agree.
not.
And also like there must be a point where like you can't go back. Like if there's been like 5 passes since and the defense haven't got themselves set or whatever, like then you're in the realm of football by that point. Like just sort yourselves out. But yeah, I understand your arguments, but
Yeah, I know.
for your own cortisol levels, I think you should just start accepting it.
The other bit of news is not really a bit of news. It's only sort of quasi-referee news that is that there's a slight anomaly. I didn't appreciate in the. I think it's just the Premier League. But if you receive a red card in the Premier League, okay,
Mm,
as a player, you miss the next game in the Premier League. Okay,
mm,
if you receive 5 yellows, which gets you a suspension,
mm.
you just miss the next game.
Full
And so the
stop.
next game, it can be like Carabao Cup or some,
Yeah.
some nonsense. And the player gets to sit it out, as it happened, I think, this week with Trossard. Trossard got his suspension for a game. So he sat out the next game about which was against sort of League Two opposition, the Carabao Cup.
Mm,
And then he's available to play. I mean, anyway, it's a
mm.
minor thing, but it just irritates me when there's not sort of uh consistency,
Consistency.
as lawyers
Yeah.
like consistency. And the final thing I was going to talk about, which is a real issue at the moment, is the yellow card for kicking the ball away, um, which seems to be
We're back on
applied.
this, are we?
It seems to
This
be
was started
applied
3
by
weeks ago, Ed.
different refs at different stages of the game differently.
No, I
And
think that
so,
I understand why.
no, I don't. No, you can't expect that the fans who are told you're going to get a yellow card for dissent for kicking the ball away. You can't expect the fans to say, "Oh, but it depends at what stage of the game we're at. It depends exactly what's happening on the pitch." It's not. It's either applied, right, or it's not applied. And
But
what
not
happens is we're getting some absurd decisions where it's not being applied for 80% of the game. Then somebody kicks it away, they get the second yellow, and they're off. And it's just infuriating.
but not
Really
every
infuriating.
kick away of the ball is delaying the restart, right? And that's what you're looking into, right? Like this is the thing. The law isn't kicking the ball away. The law is delaying the restart of play.
But just tell me, when the player kicks the ball away, right? Even if the restart is not imminent, what are they doing then?
they've not delayed the restart if the restart isn't imminent, have they?
I understand that,
Right.
but whatever he's being told is, if you kick the ball away and do that, you're going to get carded. And at the moment, that's happening all the time. People aren't getting carded for it, and then all of a sudden, there's a big key decision. The referee decides to do it, and somebody's on a yellow already. It's
Mm. I also think, like, with the kicking the ball away, delaying the restart of play, it's like in a game, you build the precedent for it, okay? So, like, it's such a soft one, really. Like, if I was to, if I was to caution a player for it, it'd have to be egregious, and I'd probably also give them maybe a chance. You know, like I'd always look for it personally as a referee. I always look for the benefit of the doubt with that one, right? Similar to like if someone's on a persistent infringement, like I'm really not wanting to send them off for a second yellow when I've given them that final warning. If it's like an aerial ball and you know they're just jostling, and I think he's probably fouled him, but it's not really. It's it's not a foul that kind of warrants a yellow card at that point.
I
Although
have
it
no
is a
problem with that.
foul and it is still persistent. So I think you have to you have to manage it, and that's why it happens more later in the game because players aren't listening to the warnings that you've given out. And if they're not listening to the warnings that you've given out, then you have no choice. The problem in the Premier League is you don't hear the story. You don't hear the conversations the referee is having with the players, and therefore you don't understand the justifications. Like if the referee, like if you went down into the dressing room and spoke to Michael Oliver or Anthony Taylor, whoever it might be, and you said, why did you end up giving him like the yellow card? Like if you was match day coaching him, for instance, why did you end up giving him the yellow card in like the 72nd minute and you didn't on like the 38th or the 45th or the 63rd? And he'll go, well, the first one I said, mate, come on, let's calm down. Second one, I was like, dude, like this is it. I can't give you any more warnings for this. Like this is ridiculous. The next one was like he literally tapped it and that was that. And then, like and I was talking to him the whole time, like in that moment when, when I did give him the yellow card, I was saying, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. And he still did it. And he warranted the yellow card. Like, until you understand the context of that relationship the referee has to those players in each moment, I think it's why it can always feel inconsistent.
So they should start then allowing the referees to speak to the media afterwards, or as what seems to be happening at the moment, you get Howard Webb turning up on Sky, espousing the views of the PGMO,
PGMOL.
PGMOL, and they should be trying to explain that. But at the moment, what all we're getting is this is the law, or this is how we're going to apply the law this year. We've decided on this particular issue to take away discretion. I'm all for discretion. The points you just said about I don't want to give somebody yellow for persistent yellow card, even you have a chat with them. You don't want to lose a player for that simple reason. So you do something, you use your common sense discretion. The problem they've got this year is they've said, no, we're going to apply this consistently. The players have all been told, and then we're seeing referees plainly as you described, using their discretion, depending on the circumstances, the phase of the game, the score, etc., etc. And fans just can't understand that.
But this is but
Somebody should be coming out having that conversation with them.
this is an institutional problem, right, of the PGMOL or of, referee governing bodies or whatever. Like in football, because so much of the law is grey, because so many different situations occur. Like I was listening to do you have the Calm app, by the way? Do you have the
Yeah,
Calm app on your phone?
yeah,
So on there you get the Jay Shetty. I don't know who he is, but you
yeah,
get the Daily J.
yeah.
I can't stand his voice. Like
I love his voice,
do you?
actually.
It's
I really like,
interesting,
yeah,
isn't it? Isn't that interesting? Give me
yeah.
LeBron James and Scottie Pippen every day of the week, but Jay, I don't know. I think it's just a bit too London for my ear. Um, but on that, he did one the other day that one of my colleagues sent me, and he said he was talking to some firefighters, like proper, like massive, dealing with very live situation firefighters. These are like the top of the top firefighters,
Yeah.
and they said like that you can have a plan, etc., etc. But in terms of like leading and making decisions, when you're dealing with such a live situation, you have to go in and as opposed to is this the decision? It's more does this decision make sense? And you must always look for what makes sense for that moment, even if it's not always the correct decision. And that's how he shapes his leadership of his team in those live situations. And it was one of my colleagues at work, in terms of football, that sent it to me, and he said, this is true for referees because we're always dealing with live decisions. And you can't always have a black and white view on what decision to make, because every situation has a different nuance. Every situation has a different context. Every situation has a completely different set of people, completely different set of energies. Like, I know if I'm tired, I'm going to be slightly more harsh on someone than if I'm not. I know if if I've had a tougher 20 minutes, I'm going to have a much tougher last 20 minutes. Okay, like first 20 to last 20. Like, because my willpower and my patience is going to have been drained. If I have one player in an entire team who's POing me, but everyone else is good as gold, I'm going to come down on that player a lot harder than anyone else because they're draining me a lot more, and my patience is going to run out. Like, we're dealing with human beings in a human situation, in a constantly developing and live process. And therefore, whenever somebody comes out and says, this will always be this, you're doing is setting yourself up to fail.
Well, of course, absolutely, and that therein lies the problem. They've sort of
Mm,
said we in a game where referees have a lot of discretion, they're taking that away on that particular topic,
mm,
and it's so difficult for the fans to understand why, if they're saying zero tolerance, this is going to happen,
mm.
and it doesn't happen every time. Fans are going to be frustrated,
I
and
also,
it just needs how well they should never come out and said it's zero tolerance, because that is ridiculous. But what they should have said is the referees are going to be much, much stricter on this, and left it at that.
mm,
Then people can argue about whether they did or didn't give it, just because there may be explanations for it. But
mm.
they've sort of said it's going to happen, and it's not happening, and it's just irritating. That's from a fan's perspective.
Yeah, no, I understand that. Just on that though, quickly, if the car map are listening, we are definitely still looking for sponsors. And and the other point is, I also don't understand why they, like, sometimes the hills they choose to die on confuses the hell out of me.
Yeah,
Like,
I know.
like was kicking the ball away particularly a problem? I don't think it was. I don't think anyone in the
It
world.
is in certain there, but the circumstances in which it's a problem, they sort of they're so blindly obvious,
Mm,
because it's someone trying to take, you know, free kick quickly, and they just like
mm.
completely
But
frustrated
then
that.
it's a lot
We all
easier to deal
understand
with, isn't
that.
it? Of course. But it wasn't like it was causing lots of controversy last season, was it? It wasn't like
No,
it wasn't like everyone was up in arms about people not getting a yellow card for delaying the restart, in
no,
this
they're not.
situation last season. And then they've come out, they've put in this thing, and now it's all anyone's focused on, and all
I
they're
know.
doing is causing more problems for themselves.
They just need to come out and say, we've told the players that there's going to be lower tolerance levels for time wasting. That's all they need to say.
Mm,
The referee's going to be a bit stricter this year on time wasting,
mm,
and the fans would understand that, and they'd be like, "Oh, he did it there in the 87th minute. That's a yellow card."
mm.
But it's anyway. I'm
Or they should send out considerations and guidelines
Yeah, exactly.
for
That's what Howard
for
Webb should be doing.
for when
He
they
should be
have
coming
this
out.
decision.
Howard Webb should be doing this.
He
If
should.
he's the mouthpiece now for them, that's the sort of thing he should be coming out explaining. But
Mm.
anyway,
Which is a
I
nice
would
segue. I should be a broadcaster.
um so we're going to continue in the deliberations again, and you put the link for this on the website, Andrew Adam, because
Yes, it's on
uh,
there.
you put the link up to the Australian laws version,
I think it's the
but I think
AFA. It's not Australia, it's the AFA.
oh, sorry,
Yeah.
AFA. So, but we think we've discovered that the US
FF,
Soccer
is it?
Federation, they have also have the exact same
I'm
document.
starting to understand why I pursued the career in acting and you didn't, if that's your American accent.
Well, I mean, it wasn't that bad, I didn't think. I
So
was
yeah, we
pretty
got
good
an
for
email.
what it was.
Really? The
Yeah,
US Soccer Football Federation.
yeah.
Coming to you live from Michigan. Right. Anyway, I actually think they're based in Texas, but that's in Dallas. But that's a by the by. Yeah. So Lee Spears got in touch with us via email, which was very kind of him. Welcome to the podcast, Lee, and thanks for getting in touch. Clearly, you're based in America. I don't know where in America, but thank you for listening. And if you could spread out our English voices across the USA for us, that'd be wonderful. You got in touch and you said, "Gents, love the podcast. Here are the considerations from USSF." I'm not sure how I feel about like a governing body having the word soccer in their actual title, but that's by the by. Do you know why it's called soccer, by the way?
Well, because they got American football, presumably.
No. Well, soccer is actually technically an appropriate term for football because it's the shortening of the word association. So football was originally known as, when it was first invented, obviously we have the Football Association, it was known as Association Football. And the word association, the common shortening of it, is soccer. So they turned it into soccer. So technically, soccer is an appropriate wording for football.
Did you find that on Wikipedia?
Yep, that's the etymology of the word soccer.
Association shortened to
Well, maybe not.
ASSOC.
Okay, all right. Well, maybe in legal terms, but in sporting terms, that's where it came from. Association, the word soccer. Okay.
For those who can't see the video screen, I have a very high raised eyebrow at the moment.
It's very similar to my reaction to your American accent.
I think you'll find that our listeners would have understood I was speaking an American accent. But anyway,
I think they understand my justification for the word soccer. Anyway, we digress. I give them Terry referee our introductory class, which is awesome. So thanks, Lee. And he sent them through, and they're exactly the same, basically, aren't they?
They are. They are exactly the same. But thank you for bringing that to our attention. But yeah, they're all available on the website. But I think the next two sections are possibly the most beneficial sections insofar as these considerations are concerned.
Are you setting us up to fail again by making?
No, no, not at all. But I think, well, the next two categories everybody understands is interfering with or stopping a promising attack.
Mm-hmm.
And we get a lot of chat in the WhatsApp group about, people's understanding of that.
On that, actually, our WhatsApp group, there's been lots of lovely chats in there this week, all about little decisions here and things and what people are going through, which is awesome. It's always been so much chitter chatter that it's been overwhelming for me to keep track of it all. So thanks for everyone. And they're all just chipping in, helping each other, talking through things that are going on each week with their games and stuff, and really being a community, which is lovely.
Yeah, no, it's been great actually. Unlike you, I was sort of coming out of work and so I'm trying to catch up, and obviously it's difficult to contribute to a chat which has kind of like moved on in the sort of 2 or 3 hours since you last looked at the phone. But one of the ways I find that I learn most of all is like in that chatting to people about scenarios that have come up. I think that's you can see a lot of people sort of chipping in, and the good thing about it is this sort of real collaborative effort to sort of look at the laws and to sort of work out what the answers are, because there are some situations which are not straightforward. The other way I like to is when you get these sort of emails online, which you get from sort of various refereeing sort of groups, sort of saying, and websites or whatever, saying, let's do a sort of laws the game test, or here's a scenario, what's the right answers, and I think they're good ways of doing it. But yeah, the chat's been great, really, really good. But I know that I only had a fleeting look at it, but there was a discussion about these two scenarios over the course of last week. So, but yeah, interfering with or stopping a promising attack.
Have you got your laws book in front of you?
I haven't got my laws book in front of me.
Any
no, I've got it online. I've got it online.
Any excuse to get it out, my friend.
Is that because you're on the front of it, Adam?
I don't know what you're talking about, mate.
The poster boy. It's very good. I think this is also, it's a shame that I don't know how many of our listeners are non-referees, but I think this is great for fans to help understand this as well, because I think a lot of fans, and players, I think a lot of fans and players don't really understand, what this is and how a referee makes his assessment of it. But the first consideration for the interfering with or stopping a promising attack is, what is the distance between the offence and the goal? Which is, it's not definitive, but it is a consideration, because you can still be denying an obvious goal scoring opportunity if someone is tackled just over the halfway line. I mean, it doesn't mean because they're still a long way from goal that it's not stopping a promising attack. But it is an important consideration, because there's the real question I think for this is, is what do you my view is when I look at these is what do I think the most likely scenario that was going to play out is here,
Mm,
when you're looking at this, and
mm.
um, so the
Well,
next one it
in terms of like a promising attack, um, like the actual considerations the law put out was it's D, distance, defenders, direction, and there's another one. Um, it's not goal.
no, that's not a D.
No, I know, no, it's another letter. It's DDDA or something. DDD. I
Okay,
can't believe I can't remember. But yeah, so that's why that's in there. It will come up in this, I'm sure, and it will spark my memory. But I mean, on my one in interfering with or stopping a promising attack, the first one is was an offence committed or not. So that's obviously the first thing you have to figure out is there an offence first?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, as opposed to
obviously,
what's the distance? Oh, that's really annoying me now. What is it? Distance, direction, defenders. Anyway, right, let's carry on. I'll think of
yeah.
it later.
But distance is obviously important here because there's significant sanctions for this, so you got to work out if this is stopping a promising attack or not.
Mm,
Um, does the player have control of the ball? Again, a really good point to remind yourself of. It's a big difference between somebody who's got control of the ball and somebody that sort of would still have a lot of work to do in terms of sort of getting the ball under control.
mm.
Um, can the player gain control of the ball? That's
That's the other one.
again,
DDDC. Defenders, distance, direction, and control. Do you
yeah.
have
Well,
control of the ball? Yeah.
yeah. Um, the next one is a sort of fairly obvious one, but I mean, what is the direction of play? I mean, I
You
think it'd
say
be
that,
difficult to work out. Yeah, go on then. What are you
but
going to try and give me a scenario whereby you might not be heading towards goal and somebody might stop a promising attack?
or you could be in the penalty area, right, and like moving away from goal towards the corner flag, and but you're in like an attacking part of the pitch. I don't think that is denying it, like if there's a foul happens there, or kind of like outside the area. But you could also be heading towards the goal, but also towards the corner flag. So you could be running that way, but your angle isn't down towards the goal; it's away from the goal. And like it's the situation of I know that doesn't qualify because direction it has to be towards the goal. But I think a
Yeah,
referee in that moment might think, hang on, it's a fast break and it could technically be a spar. Um, and so you just have to be aware, hang on, direction. Is it directly towards goal or are they still running in the goal's general direction, but not directly towards the goal?
yeah. Um, Next one is how many defenders are involved in the situation, which is one of the D's that you
Hmm.
remembered. Uh,
And what would you say the barrier is to that? Like one defender, two defenders, three defenders, four, five defenders, six defenders, seven defenders more? I don't know why I did that.
no idea either, to be perfectly honest.
The look on
Um,
your face.
well, I'm just showing the look of most of our listeners at the moment who are sat listening to it in their cars on the tube on a Monday morning, wondering what's
And
going on.
they're now singing that back to themselves. Yeah, like I reckon. So for a spa, like the more defenders, the less likely it is a promising attack. Right? Is the general rule.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's if there's sort of other defenders around about, it's less likely to be a stopping a promising attack, isn't it?
Mm,
Really, I mean, it's
mm,
how many attackers are involved in the situation? Well, it's really just as the converse of the sort of defender situation, isn't it? If it's sort of, I mean, I always most of these scenarios, I always think of invariably kind of only got sort of one or two people involved in them anyway, but that needn't necessarily be the case. But um, yeah, so that's that one.
mm,
Where are the attackers located? That's another
mhm,
good consideration as well. Um, I mean, I'm just trying to sort of put it into words as to why that's an important consideration. But obviously, if the people who are potentially joining the attack are still kind of behind the play and have got a lot of work to do to make up to get involved in the attack, that's obviously an important consideration when working out whether it was going to be a
mm.
promising attack or not.
Yeah. How many
Um,
passes are going to be needed in order to get towards the
yeah,
goal? Are
yeah,
they are they beyond the touch line so they're technically offside, or are they in an offside position so they can't be used at all? There's lots to take into account there.
yeah. No, exactly. Yep. Next one.
How many options did the player have to pass the ball before the foul was committed? So
Yeah.
how many play like it's similar to the attackers, right? Is he got 3 players and only 2 defenders in order to pass, in order to create to continue the attack? Like, are they outnumbering, or would it have had still had to have gone through 3 or 4 different players? That's probably less likely to be a promising attack. Is it one
Yeah.
pass? If it's just one pass forward, then chances are it's a promising attack.
Yeah. I agree with that. And then next one.
Number 50. Was the attack likely to develop in the next few seconds had it not been stopped by an offence?
Now we are
Are we out of
either
sync?
looking at different versions,
Interesting.
or I'm looking at the version you posted online, Adam.
I'm looking at the
Are you
version with the
looking?
most up-to-date laws of the game.
Yeah, well, that isn't necessarily. I don't think that's the one you post
Okay.
online.
So what's your we should probably get in sync, right? So do you want me to look at the ones online?
Yeah. Uh, what was the last one you did? How many options to pass the ball to the player had when he was fouled?
Yeah. Yeah.
So my next one here is: does the foul interfere with or stop a promising attack? Which is kind of like your first point you said at the
Yeah,
outset,
that's
really.
that's number 51 to me. So it looks like
Okay.
we've just got a couple more in here now. I've got a couple more in the up-to-date version.
What's your next one?
So hang on, we've done. I'm pretty confused now. So we've done. Was the attack likely to develop in the next few seconds had it not been stopped by an offence? The next one is number 51. Does the foul interfere with or stop a promising attack? Which is very
Yeah.
similar to everything else, isn't it? Then number 52 is: does the handball offence interfere with or stop a promising attack? So, can a handball be regarded for a spar? Number
Yeah.
53, does the player commit an offence inside their own penalty area whilst attempting to play the ball to interfere with or stop a promising attack? That's
Yeah. Well,
interesting. Have you got that one?
that's only well, that's presumably to do with what your sanction is, isn't it? As opposed to anything else. But I don't really quite understand what
Does
the
the player
point they're
commit an
making
offence
there.
inside their own penalty area whilst attempting to? Well, I think if it's in the penalty area, then it's more likely to be a promising attack, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't really see why they make that distinction about the penalty area personally, but
Yeah, because
either
obviously
way.
if there's a foul in the penalty, well, no, actually, no, there is, because you if if you're more like, if you're about to score a goal, that's when you play advantage or not, isn't it? Like, you generally don't play advantage in the penalty area,
No.
unless literally like it's a dead cert goal.
Yeah.
Um, and then it also affects your sanction, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, that's that. I mean, it's a
Um,
sanction. It's the only thing
so
that I
I
can
think
think of.
like that's the thing as well with this, right? Interfering with or stopping a promising attack. It's not just about determining whether to give a yellow card or not. It's determining whether to play advantage or not. And there in the penalty area, you're less likely to be playing advantage, and you are
Yeah.
more likely
I would
because
have thought so.
the advantage is generally the penalty kick. Number
Yeah.
54. Did the referee apply advantage after an offence for interfering with or stopping a promising attack? Which then that leads us down the path of the sanction.
Yeah. And then finally, did the referee allow the quick free kick for non-offending team after an offence interfere with or stop promising attack? Yeah, there we go. Is that the same as your last
Hmm.
one in that
Allow
section?
a quick free kick. No, I've got another
Yeah.
one. Does the goalkeeper commit an offence of playing the ball a second time, with or without the handstroke arm, after a restart before it touches another player? Does the goalkeeper commit an offence of playing the ball a second time? Right, okay. Well, that's simple enough, isn't it? Then you've not. Then, yeah. Are you stopping? Is the goalkeeper stopping a promising attack if he's played the ball twice? But that's just a foul. Like, you just give that as an indirect free kick, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I was going to
Interesting.
say I don't even think of that as being a foul, really. But yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of people think that. I think the perception of most fans is that if there is a challenge and the the player was the last player, everyone just assumes that must be, stopping a promising attack, but it's not quite that straightforward. I mean, I think we all most people have in their heads what they think is a stop a promising attack, but it does. You've got to think about where the other defenders are. I think one of the key things is for me is where the other defenders are. Where were they positioned? Was there a prospect they're going to get themselves involved in the play? Well, have they got a chance of getting back and making a challenge, or would they have got a chance of getting back and making a challenge? Those are the key things to me. I think that is probably for me the biggest consideration.
It's really
Because if you've got
important to. Sorry, I was just gonna say it's really important to understand the difference between stopping a frozen attack and denying an obvious goal scoring opportunity.
yeah, yeah,
And the lines between those can get blurred. And making sure that you understand on what part of the field we're going to be looking at a spar compared to a DOGSO, and often a spar situation can turn into a DOGSO. And
yeah,
knowing that line when that line is crossed is a very important thing for your refereeing.
yeah. Um, and so interesting. I saw one website where they said that a spar offence is committed when some of the criteria that we're talking about are met during a foul against a player of the attacking team. But interestingly, they focus on
Hmm,
the distance direction defenders and active control. And what they say in respect to that is, if all those four criteria are met, the offence is DOGSO, is what they say. So if you've got a player who's close distance between the offence and the opposition goal, their goal bound direction is moving directly towards the opposition goal. There's a low number of defenders, or no one who's going to be able to get back, and the attacker is in control, about to gain control. They say if you've got the three Ds and an A all together, it's a DOGSO, which is kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Really, if you have all those four things in place,
yeah,
then you have
it
denied obvious
is.
goal scoring
Yeah,
opportunity.
yeah. And I
But
think for it to be a spar, you're looking at that. For it to be a spar, you're looking at that with probably just more defenders
and we should have said, of course, that
in
the
play.
principal difference between SPA and DOGSO is the principally the colour of the card, really, isn't it? Because SPA
Mm,
offence is a yellow card, unless, of course, you find
mhm,
that you've got all the various criteria met and it's become a DOGSO, and then DOGSO is obviously a red card. Um, should
correct.
we deal with the criteria for DOGSO as well, Adam, whilst we're doing
Yeah,
that section?
I've got tactical fouls in between. Have you got tactical fouls?
No. Um,
Okay,
I may.
let's move on to DOGSO, and then we can circle back on tactical fouls next week
Yeah, no, I
because they're
don't
all
have
very
tactical.
similar.
I don't
Okay,
have tactical files, and
shall
I'm
I
just
quickly
kind of
run through
looking.
them? There's only like 8 of them.
Yeah, you can do. Yeah,
Okay, so for a
yeah, go for
tactical
it.
foul, which is also something like that's similar to a spar. It's similar to
Yeah, it's
it's
very
that
similar.
classic. He knew what he was doing.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
exactly.
again, was an offence committed or not? Does the offence interfere with or stops what would otherwise be a promising attack? Does the offence take away a possible good advantage from the attacking team? Was the tactical foul committed to gain a numerical advantage for the defending team to stop or hinder the attack? That one's interesting, isn't it? Like, have you done it so you can get your defenders back? Was the tactical foul committed to give the defending team time to defend to get goal side of the ball, thus creating time to defend the free kick? Does the tactical foul prevent the ball and or player from advancing with a promising attacking move, e.g. deliberate handball or blocking or holding an attacker? Was the foul committed to prevent the ball and or attacking player from getting into space behind a defending player or team? Does the player commit an offence when they know they are beaten or do not the skill? That doesn't make sense. Does a player commit an offence when they know they are beaten or do not have the skill and or the speed to stop the attacker? Does the player commit a careless, cynical foul to prevent the opponent from progressing, thereby gaining advantage to the defending team? So much of that tactical foul is about buying yourself time in order to get your defense set.
And that's always a yellow card, isn't it? I mean, to tactical foul for in all
Yeah,
those
yeah,
scenarios,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
just a
yeah.
straightforward yellow.
Because again, because a tactical foul is almost a regression from a
Yeah,
spar. Like a tactical foul will develop into a spar, which will develop
yeah,
into a DOGSO, right? So it's kind of a linear process.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so let's do the DOGSO then before we call it a night. So, well, my first one is, and I think there's going to be some parallels here between Spa as well. I would have thought, and it looks that way from the first one. My first one is, what is the distance between the
Yeah,
offence and the goal? Um,
yeah. My first one is, was an offence committed or not? Again,
yeah. So
yeah,
yeah, no, fair enough. So that's obviously the starting point.
yeah. So we got our first D,
Yeah.
distance.
Then the next one, is there a likelihood of the player keeping control of the ball? So we've got our uh,
Our C,
RC
control.
control. Is there a
Yep,
likelihood of the player gaining control? So again, so either slight variation on the keeping control. Then we've got our next D, general direction of play. And we got our next D
yep,
again, how many defenders are involved in the situation, and again, where are the
yep,
defenders located? So
yep.
we've got the same considerations largely there for SPA offences. And
Mhm.
then my next one is the offence a direct free kick or indirect free kick?
Correct.
And can you just explain that though, Adam, that bit? Um, I mean, I can't quite work out what the difference between would be if you deny a goal scoring opportunity for an offence that would ordinarily be an indirect free kick. Why would that be a factor? Because I don't understand. If you're stopping an obvious goal scoring opportunity, why would the type of offence make a difference? Do you know the answer to that? I'm trying to think of an indirect something a foul you could commit which would be an indirect free
My
kick.
in,
So yeah, so um,
well, you can't, can you? Because there'd be no contact. Like, what an indirect free kick would be if he's like
screamed at him
shouting at the player and it
to
distracts the
stop
player.
him, but that would
Not likely to cause. I think that question is there because if the offence is punishable by an indirect free kick, it's not a it it can't be a
well,
DOGSO.
I don't think it's that definitive. I think this is just sort of
No, it's
this
not,
is
is it?
just criteria for you to
I don't
think
know.
about. But I mean, it almost suggests though that you're saying if you scream at somebody who's got away from you and you scream at them to put them off, that would be an indirect free kick ordinarily. It's almost suggesting that you then have to think
I
about, well, is that enough for a DOGSO? Um,
you know what I think it is. Um I think it's just the remind I think it's just the reminder that you can still have a DOGSO in an indirect free kick situation and that it is still a red card. Not all fouls. Would it though? No, it wouldn't be because a red card would have to be no, it wouldn't have to have excessive
no,
force if it's a
no.
DOGSO. No, yeah, okay. Yeah. So it's to do with I think, and look, please tell me if I'm wrong. It's just a reminder that you need to get the restart correct.
Uh, oh yes, that would make that well. That would make sense. That would make
Mm.
sense. Although the fact that it's a consideration in the section which is largely about is it or isn't it a DOGSO that they should put that in
Is a bit
because it's a
confusing.
bit confusing that. But that would make sense because
I think
how
it's
you
yeah. I
restart the
think
play would be impacted.
that's my
Yeah,
instinct
no, that's
because
probably right.
99.9% of your DOGSOs are going to be direct free kicks.
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah, I think you're right about that. Then again, I didn't quite follow this next one. Um, if there is no offence,
Hmm.
does the player have an obvious opportunity to score a goal?
Yeah.
How could there be a
Well,
DOGSO if you don't commit an offence?
no, that's not what they're. No, so right, so with this, right, when you're looking at a DOGSO, one of the things we do is like, what would happen if you took the defender who's committed the DOGSO out of the equation? So imagine you've got a still picture in front of you of like you've got a goalkeeper, you've got I wouldn't say a Chelsea player because it never happens for Chelsea, but you've got I don't know an Arsenal player charging down on goal, and you've got a Manchester United defender there, and there's a collision. And if you was to take that Man United defender out, what do you
Yeah.
think the most likely situation was going to be for that attacker?
Okay. Well, so Well, in the scenario you just described, I think in almost all cases it's still it's going to be DOGSO still, isn't it? I mean, if
Yeah,
they're
yeah, yeah. But
but but
yeah,
but so the point then is that it's so there's no offense. So if it's a sort of, oh, no, I'm still struggling with that because
yeah,
what you're
no.
saying.
So like what it comes down to, like, oftentimes with this situation is it's like, where's the ball? Is the ball in that situation? If the ball is closer to the goalkeeper when you take that defender out of the picture, what's the most, like, that attacker therefore doesn't have an obvious opportunity to score the goal because it's more likely going to end up in possession of the goalkeeper. So it's not going to be a dog zone. But if, if the ball is closer to the attacker as it's spilled out of that collision, or in the situation of that collision, or let's say it's coming from a cross and someone takes out that attacker, like, it's those kinds of situations. The way I read that is, if no offence is committed, would the attacking player stroke team have an obvious opportunity to score a goal? Which is basically, would the next thing they do be a shot on goal? And if it was a shot on goal, what are the chances of them scoring it? And so if that's the case, then that is an obvious opportunity to score a goal if they get a clear shot at
But
goal.
but but
And
that's
has
no
that been
difference
stopped because
from
the defender is there?
the earlier criteria about would the player have control or be gaining control? Because in that scenario, you'd be like, well, no, he wouldn't have gained control because the keeper would have got to it first. I just don't get the bit about if there is no
No,
offence.
yeah, yeah. But I think sometimes those considerations, they phrase the same consideration in a slightly different way to help people's learning. So
Which really isn't doing
you
it.
might not be able
It's
to pick you might not be able to picture 74, but you might be able to picture 67. Do you know what I mean? For instance.
yeah. Well, if any listeners think we've got that interpretation right, I have to say I find that one a little bit odd to follow. But we're then back to another one for the SPA. We've got, does the player commit a handball offence to deny the opposing team a goal? And then my next one is, does the player hold, pull, or push an opponent to deny an opponent an obvious goal scoring
Why
opportunity?
is that important, Ed?
Does the big well, well, that'd only be material if it's in the penalty area, wouldn't it? As
Correct,
opposed
but
to,
why?
because if it's making a genuine attempt to play the ball, it would be penalty and yellow card, as opposed to if you're pulling, pushing, or holding, it's not a genuine attempt to play the ball, and it's a red card.
Reading the DOGSO law before every game on the tube as you travel into it has paid off, hasn't it, Edward?
It has. See, I told you. I told you, DOGSO always caused me problems. I'm always worried about this one. So there we go. The learning has worked. And then my final one is,
Oh,
no, I've
really?
got
I've got
three
like
more actually.
four
Sorry,
more.
no,
Yeah.
I've got three more. Does the player commit an offence inside his or her own penalty area whilst attempting to play the ball to deny an opponent an obvious goal scoring opportunity? But that's what I've just sort of talked about.
Hmm.
And then my penultimate one is, did the referee apply advantage and a goal scoring opportunity and caution the player when the ball was next out of play? Which is just a reminder. It's not, that's
Mm.
more a reminder about what to do after, as
Correct
opposed
sanctions.
to
Yep.
considerations for whether it's an offside. And then finally, did the referee allow a quick free kick for a non-offending team after an offence which denied an obvious goal scoring opportunity?
And then I've got one more, which is, does the goalkeeper commit an offence of playing the ball a second time with or without the hand stroke arm after a
How's that one
restart
again?
before it touches another player? Yeah. Should we just ignore that one?
Yeah.
Interesting. So, DOGSO,
Yeah.
that's good. I know that these are really helpful, right? But I actually think things like advantage, dissent, wall management, I think all of those things are going to be equally.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying that I don't think the other consideration sections are worthwhile. I mean, I think they are. I think they are good for referees to read these. They're not when the decisions happen on the pitch, that they're not going to go, oh, number 57 is that. But what they will have in their memory bank is, you know, people come out this probably with three D's and a C. That's what people come out of it for.
Mm.
Or they will sort of remember having read or listened to us talk about the podcast. And they'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, no. So I know some of the key things here are, and that's the key, because as we all know, we don't have the laws in our hand when we
No,
referee games.
it also gives
And
them a practical defense
Yeah,
to, when someone challenges their decision.
yeah, absolutely, and I think that's really helpful as well because we're big fans of referees that sort of communicate and explain why they're doing or not doing things. And if you're able to sort of say, well, and then reel off some of the considerations, you're going to be in fairly solid ground. I mean,
Mm,
rather than just simply saying, no, it wasn't. I mean, which doesn't really help anybody. It's much better. You sound a bit more informed as well if you're able to
mm.
justify your reasoning as well. So, yeah, no, these are useful.
Excellent.
Well, I think that is probably enough, Adam, for this episode. Bearing in mind, for me, it's like 10:30 in the evening.
Yeah.
What time's it there?
7:30. So the sun's coming up. It's getting hot. I need to walk the dogs now that they've stopped annoying me. And yeah,
Yeah,
look forward to my day off.
lucky old you. No such luck here, I'm afraid. But yeah, work tomorrow, sadly. But
No, but you do get 4 million holiday days a year, so it's not the end of the world, is it?
it's not quite that month, but close. Right.
I'm glad you're embracing it now.
Of course, I'm embracing it. Keeps me sane. Right. Lovely to speak to you.
Likewise,
And we
my
need to
friend.
record another episode before I head to
Jet
South
to
America
Buenos Aires. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. So I need to get one or two more in before I go away at the end of the month. But
not a
I'm sure
problem at
we'll
all.
manage that. All right.
Brilliant. All
Nice
right,
to
you have
speak
a
to you.
lovely evening. Bye bye, my friend.
Bye.
Ciao.
Thank you so much for making it to the end of another episode of Red or Yellow. You're clearly a very fit listener. May I gently remind you to like and subscribe to this podcast in your podcast app. That way, when we release a new episode, our meandering chats will magically appear on your phone. Also, if you've enjoyed this episode, please feel free to share it with one of your friends when they ask for a podcast recommendation. Word of mouth goes a long way, and no more so than yours. Don't forget, you can get 10% off any refereeing equipment that you might need if you head to processports.com and use the code REDORYELLOW10 at checkout. Thank you so much for listening this week. And don't forget to follow us on social media. It's at RedOrYellowPod. And please feel free to send us any questions that you may have via DM, or you can email redoryellowpod@gmail.com. We cannot wait to speak to you again very, very soon. Ciao, ciao.